So let me ask you a question. What if the map of artificial intelligence you've been using is just wrong? Today, we're going to throw out that old guide and explore a completely new atlas that shows the hidden continents of labor, politics, and power that really define AI. Seriously, when you hear AI, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, right, it's something kind of abstract, lines of code floating in the cloud, maybe a slick robot from a movie. It feels clean, digital, and totally separate from our messy physical world. And yeah, the textbook definitions, like this one right here, they just back that up. AI is a system that perceives, interprets, decides, and acts. It all sounds so neat and technical, doesn't it? Like some kind of rational, disembodied brain. But what if that's only a tiny, tiny piece of the real picture? This insight from a student, this is it. This gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today. The second you stop seeing AI as just technology, and you start seeing it as this massive global industrial system, everything changes. And that's the pivot we're making right now. This whole new way of looking at things comes straight from Kate Crawford's amazing book, Atlas of AI. She gives us a completely different map for understanding the subject, one that shows all the huge, often invisible landscapes that are actually powering our so-called intelligent systems. And here it is. This is her central, super provocative argument, the one that really stops you in your tracks. AI is neither artificial nor intelligent. Now, what does she mean by that? Well, she's saying it isn't some magic, independent brain that just appeared out of nowhere. It's built from the earth and from human hands, and its intelligence is usually just a mirror reflecting its creators. Okay, so take a look at this. This image just brilliantly visualizes Crawford's core idea. She reframes AI as an extractive industry, and you can see all the layers right here. You start at the very bottom with the planet itself, the lithium, the cobalt, all these minerals being mined. Then you move up a layer to the huge and often hidden human labor that's needed to label all the data. And then at the top, you've got our data, our lives, constantly being harvested to feed the whole system. This idea that AI is physical, that it's embodied in material, was a huge revelation for the students whose reflections helped shape this explainer. It just completely flipped their assumptions on their head. AI went from being this neutral piece of code to a powerful, real-world tool with deep, tangible roots in our physical planet. All right, so let's dig into that. Let's explore that first major territory on our new map, the absolutely staggering physical and human costs that make our digital world possible in the first place. So Crawford argues that modern AI is basically built on three fundamental kinds of extraction. First, the literal mining of the earth for minerals and the insane amount of energy needed to cool data centers. Second, the exploitation of a global workforce. And third, the nonstop harvesting of our data, because these systems need to see billions of examples just to learn the simplest patterns. And this is the thing that catches so many of us by surprise. Just like this student said, there's a real irony here, right? We think of tech as being clean and weightless, but the truth is the cloud has a massive physical footprint, and it's getting bigger every single day. And that brings us to the human cost. Ever wondered how an AI actually learns to see a cat in a photo? Well, a lot of the time it's because thousands of people, these digital piece workers, have been paid pennies to manually click on millions of images. It's this hidden human work that creates the illusion of a smart, independent machine. Okay, see how this is all connected? This extraction of minerals and labor, it's directly linked to the extraction of data that's then used to classify people. And this is where the physical reality of AI just slams right into our social reality, showing us that AI is, at its core, deeply political. Crawford calls AI a registry of power. What does she mean by that? It means these AI systems aren't just neutral observers. No way. They are tools for sorting, for ranking, and for classifying all of us. And when they do that, they don't just see the world as it is. They often absorb and then amplify the power structures and biases that are already all around us. And this slide right here is a really concerning example. It's called effect recognition. The industry claims its AI can read your inner emotions just by scanning your face. It's being sold for job interviews, for airport security, you name it. The problem? The entire scientific idea that a few facial expressions can reliably map to our inner feelings, well, as Crawford says, it's incredibly unstable. And here is why this is so terrifyingly real. This powerful testimony from a student just lays it bare. For this person and for so many others whose expressions don't fit some narrow, pre-programmed norm, a system judging them on this flawed idea isn't just wrong. It's profoundly discriminatory. It's a tool of exclusion, plain and simple. So when we understand this new, much more complex atlas of AI, it doesn't really give us any easy answers. But what it does do is help us start asking much, much better questions. The kind of critical questions that the students started asking as soon as they saw this bigger picture. So we have to ask ourselves, if an AI is trained on decades of biased data from our own history in hiring and policing, you name it, how can we ever expect it to produce a fair result? How do we stop it from just putting the discrimination of our past on autopilot? We also have to ask about sustainability. I mean, as these AI models get exponentially bigger and more powerful, can our planet actually handle this relentless demand for more resources and more energy? Is this path even sustainable in the long run? And what about our own power in all of this? When just a handful of massive companies control the entire infrastructure of AI, what does meaningful resistance or regulation even look like? How do we, as citizens, make sure these incredibly powerful tools actually serve the public good and not just the corporate bottom line? And this leads to an even deeper, more philosophical question that really fascinated the students. If an AI can perfectly mimic the signs of having an emotion or being intelligent without any genuine understanding behind it, does that difference even matter? It really forces us to think about what we actually value. Ultimately, that's what this new atlas gives us. It's not a destination, but a much, much clearer view of the terrain. It shows us the hidden costs, the power dynamics, and all the critical choices that are right in front of us. The map is now in our hands. The only real question left is, where do we choose to go from here?